Imagine this. At her mother's funeral, 7 months pregnant Madison opens a home cam alert and watches her millionaire husband in their bed with his lawyer. Minutes later, cops crash her door with a psychiatric hold. In 72 hours, she'll be labeled delusional, medicated, erased. But Madison runs through a blizzard, into the woods, into labor. One baby declared dead, another hidden by a stranger who refuses to let a monster win. From a secret cabin to a luxury wellness prison, from an undercover DOJ sting to a wired confession in a Greenwich mansion, every step exposes a darker truth: cartel money, black market adoptions, and a husband who smiles while planning a tragic suicide. And just when you think justice lands, he whispers the line that breaks the room: ask about the other baby. Want to know who lied, who flipped, and who built a life called second chances from the ashes? Hit like so more people find this. Drop your boldest theory in the comments. Share with a friend who loves jaw-drop twists, and subscribe so you don't miss the truth when it hits. Madison Clark stood at her mother's graveside in Burlington, Vermont, watching dirt fall onto polished wood. 7 months pregnant, she shifted her weight against the December cold. Her black dress stretched tight across her belly, the baby kicking as if sensing her grief. Your mother was a remarkable woman, the pastor said, his voice carrying across the small gathering of 30 people. Madison nodded, unable to speak. Patricia Morgan had died suddenly of a heart attack 3 days earlier. Madison had driven up from Connecticut alone. Nathan had important meetings. Nathan always had important meetings. Her phone buzzed in her coat pocket. She ignored it. Then it buzzed again and again. Frustrated, she pulled it out, ready to switch it off completely. The notification made her freeze. Their home security system had detected motion in the master bedroom. That was odd. Nathan was supposed to be in Manhattan until tomorrow, closing a major acquisition for his hedge fund. She opened the app more from habit than concern. Their smart home system was state-of-the-art, Nathan's pride and joy. Every door, every room, every angle covered by discrete cameras that backed up to the cloud. The master bedroom feed loaded slowly on the cemetery's weak signal. When it finally cleared, Madison's world tilted. Nathan was there, in their bed. But he wasn't alone. A blonde woman straddled him, her back to the camera. Madison recognized the distinctive butterfly tattoo on her shoulder blade. Sophia Winters, the corporate lawyer Nathan had hired 6 months ago. Madison's hands shook. The pastor was still speaking, something about eternal rest. The other mourners stood with heads bowed. She stepped back from the grave, her breath forming clouds in the frigid air. She switched to another camera angle. This one showed Sophia's face clearly as she leaned down to kiss Nathan. But something was wrong. Sophia kept glancing toward Nathan's office, connected to their bedroom through a side door. Madison zoomed in. Sophia was holding something, papers. No, photographs. She was photographing documents while Nathan lay back with his eyes closed. The baby kicked hard, making Madison gasp. Her cousin Linda touched her arm. Are you okay? Do you need to sit down? I need to go, Madison whispered. I'm sorry, I need to go right now. She stumbled toward her car, ignoring the confused murmurs behind her. The phone stayed clutched in her hand as she climbed into her Tesla. She started the recording function on the app, saving everything to her private cloud account. The drive from Burlington to their Greenwich home normally took 4 hours. Madison made it in 3, speeding down Interstate 91 as snow began to fall. She tried calling Nathan 12 times. Each call went to voicemail. She tried to think rationally. Maybe there was an explanation. Maybe Sophia was retrieving something Nathan needed. Maybe the intimate position was a misunderstanding. But she knew better. The past 6 months suddenly made sense. Nathan's late nights, his distracted behavior, the new cologne, the way he'd been criticizing her appearance since she'd started showing. Madison burst through their front door at 4:17 p.m., still wearing her funeral dress. The house was quiet, that particular stillness of spaces holding secrets. Nathan, she called out, her voice echoing through the marble foyer. No answer. She climbed the curved staircase, her hand gripping the banister. The master bedroom door stood slightly open. She could hear voices inside, low and urgent. We need to move faster, Sophia was saying. The DOJ investigation is accelerating. I told you, everything's compartmentalized, Nathan replied. Even if they find the offshore accounts, they can't trace them back to the source. Madison pushed the door open. Nathan stood by his office door in a bathrobe, while Sophia sat on their bed fully dressed, a stack of documents beside her. Madison? Nathan's face went white. You're supposed to be in Vermont. My mother's funeral ended early, Madison said, her voice deadly calm. Apparently, I'm interrupting something important. Sophia stood quickly, gathering the papers. Mrs. Clark, this isn't what it looks like. We were just reviewing some urgent legal documents. In my bedroom? While my husband is practically naked? Madison's voice rose. Get out of my house. Nathan stepped between them. Madison, you're being hysterical. It's the pregnancy hormones. Sophia and I were just, I saw you, Madison interrupted, on the security cameras. I saw everything. I recorded everything. The color drained from Sophia's face. She exchanged a quick glance with Nathan. What exactly did you see? Nathan asked carefully. Before Madison could answer, the doorbell rang. Then someone knocked, hard and insistent. Police, a voice called out. We need to speak with Madison Clark. Madison looked at Nathan in confusion. What did you do? Nathan's expression had changed, becoming cold and calculating. What I had to. You're not well, Madison. The stress of your mother's death, the pregnancy, you've been having delusions. What are you talking about? The knocking grew louder. Mrs. Clark, we need you to come to the door. Nathan pulled out his phone, showing her a document. A psychiatric hold petition, signed by 2 doctors. They've been treating you for paranoid delusions for weeks. You just don't remember because of your condition. Madison backed away. You're lying. I haven't seen any doctors. Dr. Morrison and Dr. Robert Carter, Nathan said smoothly. Very respected psychiatrists. They're very concerned about you, especially after you threatened to hurt yourself and the baby. I never... The front door burst open. 4 police officers entered, followed by 2 paramedics with a gurney. Mrs. Clark, the lead officer said gently, we're here to help. Your husband's worried about you. He's lying, Madison shouted. I'm not crazy. He's having an affair. He's involved in something illegal. The officers surrounded her. One of them, a woman with kind eyes, took her arm. Let's just go get you checked out, okay? It's just for 72 hours, for your safety and the baby's. Madison looked at Nathan. He stood with his arm around Sophia's shoulders, playing the concerned husband perfectly. Please don't make this harder than it needs to be, he said. Think of our child. As the officers led her away, Madison saw Sophia smile. It was small, quick, but unmistakable. This had all been planned. The psychiatric ward at Greenwich Hospital felt like a prison decorated by a committee. Soft colors couldn't disguise the locked doors, reinforced windows, and cameras in every corner. Madison had been there for 36 hours, subjected to endless questions about her delusions and paranoid fantasies. DeMar Morrison, a thin man with nervous hands and coffee-stained teeth, sat across from her in the evaluation room for the 4th time. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting harsh shadows that made his angular face appear almost skeletal. Behind him, a one-way mirror reflected Madison's exhausted image, hair unwashed, eyes red-rimmed, wearing the standard-issue gray scrubs that made every patient look like a ghost. Mrs. Clark, your husband says you've been following him, making accusations, threatening to hurt yourself if he leaves you, Doctor, Morrison said, tapping his pen against his clipboard in an irritating rhythm. That's not true, Madison said for the 100th time, her voice hoarse from repetition. I have video evidence on my phone showing him with another woman. I recorded it through our home security system. The timestamp would prove I was in Vermont when it happened. The phone you claim the police took, the one no one can find? The doctor made a note, his handwriting an incomprehensible scrawl. Madison, these persecution fantasies are concerning. You've created an elaborate narrative where everyone is against you. Your husband, the police, even the medical staff here. That's textbook paranoid delusion. The irony burned like acid in her throat. They'd confiscated her phone at intake, claiming it was procedure. She'd watched the nurse put it in a locked drawer with her other belongings. Now they denied it existed. Nathan had thought of everything. "I want to speak to a lawyer," Madison said firmly. "That's my right." "Of course it is," Deirdre Morrison agreed with a patronizing smile. "But first, we need to stabilize your condition. You're a danger to yourself and your unborn child in this state. Once you start accepting reality, we can discuss next steps." Madison wanted to scream. Every request for outside contact was deflected. Every logical argument was twisted into further proof of her illness. The other patients avoided her, warned by staff that she was volatile. She was trapped in a nightmare where telling the truth was considered insane. That evening, her roommate Carol was admitted. Carol was a woman in her 60s with wild gray hair and eyes that never stopped moving. She'd been there before, she explained, for knowing too much about the surveillance state. "They watch everything," Carol whispered that first night, pulling her blanket up to her chin. "Through the TVs, the phones, even the smoke detectors. But sometimes they get distracted. Fire alarms. They hate fire alarms. Scrambles their frequencies." Madison had initially dismissed Carol as genuinely disturbed. But as she lay in her narrow bed that second night, staring at the ceiling tiles and counting the holes, 1,423 in her tile alone, she noticed something Carol had said was true. During fire drills, which happened every Wednesday for safety compliance, the electronic locks would disengage for exactly 45 seconds. It was a safety protocol to prevent patients from being trapped in an emergency. She'd observed this during her supervised walks. The nurse's station was furthest from the hallway fire alarm, near the main exit where they'd gather patients during drills. The emergency stairwell, however, was in the opposite direction, leading to the parking garage. During the chaos of an actual alarm, not a drill, staff would be too busy managing panicking patients to notice one missing immediately. Madison spent the next 12 hours planning. She studied the staff rotations, memorizing who was lazy, who was vigilant, who took smoke breaks exactly 17 minutes into their shift. The night nurse, Rodriguez, always did his rounds at precisely 2-hour intervals, starting at 10, midnight, 2, and 4. He was predictable, checking rooms in the same order, spending exactly 3 minutes at each station updating charts. She'd hidden her coat by stuffing it under her mattress during a supervised room cleaning session, claiming she was hot from the pregnancy. The staff, overworked and underpaid, hadn't bothered to check. They never did. Pregnant women were always hot or cold or uncomfortable. It was expected. At 2:14 a.m., Madison made her move. Rodriguez had just passed her room, meaning she had roughly 1 hour and 57 minutes before he had returned. She slipped out of bed, avoiding the squeaky floorboard near the door, third plank from the left. Carol stirred but didn't wake, her medication keeping her in a deep sleep. The hallway was dimly lit by emergency lighting. Madison had noticed during her walks that the fire alarm's plastic cover was cracked, probably from years of wear and never repaired because it still functioned. The crack was wide enough to get a grip. She reached up, her pregnant belly making it awkward, and yanked hard. The alarm shrieked like a wounded animal. Emergency lights exploded into strobing red and white. Doors automatically unlocked with a series of mechanical clicks. Almost immediately, patients stumbled into the halls, some crying, some laughing, some simply standing, frozen in confusion. "Fire! Fire in the kitchen!" someone shouted, though there was no smoke. Panic spread faster than any flame could. Patients began pushing, shoving, trying to get to exits. The night staff, only 4 people for 40 patients, were overwhelmed immediately. Rodriguez's voice crackled over the intercom. "Remain calm. This is just an alarm. Please proceed to the common area." But no one listened. Carol had been right. Chaos was the enemy of surveillance. Madison walked calmly but quickly toward the stairwell, not the main exit where staff would congregate. She'd wrapped a blanket around herself like a shawl, hiding the coat underneath. To anyone glancing, she looked like another confused patient wandering in the wrong direction. "Hey, you!" a voice called. Madison's heart stopped. But when she turned, she saw it was directed at another patient who was trying to break into the medication room. She slipped through the stairwell door. The concrete stairs were cold under her hospital socks. She pulled on her coat, abandoned the blanket, and descended quickly but carefully. Her center of gravity was off from the pregnancy. One wrong step could be catastrophic. The parking garage was freezing and poorly lit. Row after row of cars stretched into shadows. Madison needed something older, without GPS, something staff might use. She spotted it in the employees section. A beat-up 2003 Honda Civic with a staff parking permit and a proud nurse bumper sticker. She'd overheard nurses complaining about the hospital's parking situation. Some shared cars for shift changes, leaving keys hidden for the next person. It was against policy, but policies were for people who didn't work 16-hour shifts. Madison checked the obvious spots first. Nothing above the visor, nothing in the wheel well. Then she saw it, a small magnetic box under the rear bumper. Inside, a single key. The engine turned over on the third try. The gas gauge showed half a tank. Enough. She drove out slowly, headlights off, merging into the chaos of arriving fire trucks. 3 trucks screamed past her, sirens masking the sound of the stolen Civic. Once on the highway, Madison allowed herself one moment of triumph. Then reality crashed back. She had no phone, no money beyond the emergency cash card she'd hidden in her coat lining months ago, no plan beyond survival. Nathan would discover her escape within hours. He had resources she couldn't imagine, but she had something he didn't expect: desperation and a mother's rage. She stopped at an ATM in Stamford, pulling up her hoodie to hide her face from the camera. The emergency account was under her maiden name, something she'd set up years ago after reading an article about financial abuse. Nathan didn't know about it. She'd funded it with small cashbacks from grocery purchases over 3 years. $300 was all she could withdraw before the account would flag and notify the primary account holder, which was still her, but any unusual activity might alert Nathan's financial advisors who monitored their accounts. The snow started as she crossed into Massachusetts, thick, heavy flakes that made visibility nearly impossible. The Civic's heater barely worked. She drove hunched forward, squinting through the white wall, praying she wouldn't slide off the road. Amy's cabin address was burned into her memory. They'd been college roommates, soul sisters who'd planned to conquer the art world together. Amy had gotten divorced last year, bought the cabin as a fuck you to her cheating ex-husband who hated nature. She was in Europe for the holidays, posting Instagram photos from Paris. The spare key was hidden under a painted rock shaped like a frog, a detail Amy had mentioned during a wine-fueled video call. Madison ditched the Honda 2 miles from the cabin, pulling into an abandoned logging road. She hiked the rest through knee-deep snow, her boots soaking through within minutes. Every step was agony. Her back screamed, her belly contracted with Braxton Hicks contractions brought on by stress and exertion. "Please," she whispered to her baby, "just a little longer. We're almost safe." And the cabin materialized through the snow like something from a fairy tale, dark windows and snow-covered roof barely visible. Madison's fingers were so numb she could barely grasp the ceramic frog. The key fell into the snow twice before she managed to unlock the door. Inside, the cabin was colder than the Civic had been. No electricity. Amy must have had it shut off for winter. But there was a wood stove, split logs stacked beside it, matches in a waterproof container on the mantel. It took Madison 40 minutes to get a fire going, her frozen fingers fumbling with kindling. When the flames finally caught, she almost cried with relief. She melted snow in a pot she found in the kitchen, drinking the lukewarm water greedily. In the pantry, canned soup, crackers, instant coffee, and miraculously a bottle of prenatal vitamins with Amy's name on them. Expiration date 3 months past. Madison swallowed 2 vitamins dry, then heated the soup over the wood stove. She found thick wool blankets in a cedar chest, wrapped herself until only her face showed. For the first time in days, she felt something approximating safety. That feeling lasted exactly 13 days. For 13 days, Madison existed in a bubble of isolation that felt like both sanctuary and prison. The cabin became her entire world, 800 square feet of knotty pine walls, creaking floorboards, and windows that rattled when the wind picked up. She developed routines that kept her sane. Wake with the sunrise filtering through frost-covered windows. Rebuild the fire that had died to embers overnight. Melt snow for water. Eat whatever combination of canned goods seemed most nutritious for the baby. Walk the perimeter of the clearing to keep her muscles from atrophying. Return before her feet went completely numb. Spend the afternoon organizing and reorganizing her meager supplies. planning escape routes she'd probably never use, making lists on the backs of Amy's old electric bills. The isolation was total. No phone, no internet, no connection to the outside world. The nearest neighbor was 5 miles through dense forest. The only sounds were wind through pine trees, the crack of ice breaking on the pond behind the cabin, and her own voice when she talked to the baby just to hear something human. "Your daddy's not a bad man," she said on day 3, stirring powdered milk into her instant coffee. "He's just broken in ways I couldn't fix. Maybe no one can fix." By day 5, she'd stopped trying to justify Nathan to their unborn child. By day 7, she was angry. By day 10, she was planning. She made detailed lists on paper she found in Amy's desk, the kind with little dancing bears at the top that Amy used for grocery lists. Evidence she needed to gather. The security footage, backed up to her private cloud. Bank records showing Nathan's hidden accounts. She knew the passwords. The prenatal vitamins, yachens, he'd secretly replaced with sugar pills when they were trying to conceive. She'd found the real ones hidden in his office and kept them as evidence. Lawyers she could trust, a short list. Timothy Johnson from law school maybe, though they hadn't spoken in years. Sarah Martinez, who'd helped Amy with her divorce. Ways to protect the baby. Legal separation first. File in Vermont where abandonment laws favored mothers. Claim emotional abuse and document everything. She felt safe for the first time since seeing that video. The cabin was so remote, so disconnected from her real life, that it seemed impossible Nathan could find her. She'd left no digital trail. The car was abandoned miles away. No one knew about her friendship with Amy except Amy, who was posting pictures of croissants from a Parisian cafe. On day 14, everything changed. Madison woke to a sound she'd never heard at the cabin. Engines, multiple engines, their low rumble carrying through the still morning air. She crept to the front window, peering through a gap in the curtains Amy had sewn herself, covered in tiny embroidered hummingbirds. 3 black SUVs wound up the dirt road, visible through the gaps in the trees. They moved slowly, deliberately, like predators certain of their prey. Madison's mind raced. How? How had they found her? Then she remembered the ATM. She'd been careful, but not careful enough. Nathan had connections everywhere. One withdrawal from an account he supposedly didn't know about, one CCTV image of her face, and he could triangulate possible destinations. The cabin was registered in Amy's name, but Amy was on Madison's social media, tagged in old photos from college. Nathan's investigators would have built a web of connections, eliminated possibilities, narrowed it down. She grabbed the backpack she'd kept ready, a habit from her first night. Water bottles filled with melted snow, the remaining cans of food, the prenatal vitamins, matches, Amy's emergency first aid kit, and the $300 cash minus what she'd spent on gas. She pulled on every layer of clothing she could find. Amy's hiking pants under her dress, 2 sweaters, the coat, a wool hat that smelled like Amy's shampoo. The SUV stopped 100 yards from the cabin. Men in dark clothes got out, not police uniforms, she noted. Private security, Nathan's men. They spread into a practice formation, surrounding the cabin in a wide circle. Madison ran out the back door, into the woods she'd been hiking for 2 weeks. She knew these trails now, knew where they led. The main path went to the pond, frozen solid but potentially treacherous. A smaller trail veered left toward a ravine. The right path led deeper into the forest, eventually connecting to an old logging road. "Mrs. Clark," one man shouted, his voice carrying clearly in the cold air. "Your husband just wants to talk. You're not in trouble." She veered right, pushing through deeper snow between the trees. The men were faster, stronger, unencumbered by pregnancy, but they didn't know the terrain. Madison did. She knew where the snow concealed fallen logs, where ice made slopes treacherous, where thick undergrowth would slow pursuit. Her breathing came in gasps, visible puffs in the frigid air. The contractions returned, stronger than before. Her belly tightened into a hard ball, sending shooting pains down her legs. She bit her glove to keep from screaming. Behind her, she heard dogs barking. They'd brought tracking dogs. Of course they had. Nathan never did anything halfway. Madison stumbled down a steep slope, sliding on ice-covered leaves. At the bottom, she splashed through a half-frozen creek, the icy water soaking through her boots instantly. Her feet went numb within seconds. But the water might break her scent trail, confuse the dogs at least temporarily. She could hear men shouting coordinates, professional and calm. These weren't local police or even standard private security. These were specialists, hunters of human prey. Target heading northeast, approximate speed 2 miles per hour. Thermal signature acquired. She's hypothermic. Core temp dropping. Movement pattern suggests physical distress, possible medical emergency. Madison found the cave by accident, stumbling when a contraction doubled her over. It wasn't really a cave, just a depression in the rock face where erosion had carved out a shallow shelter. She pressed herself inside, pulling branches across the entrance. The contractions were coming every few minutes now, waves of pain that made her vision go white at the edges. She bit down on her glove harder, tasting wool and her own blood where she'd bitten her lip. That's when she felt it, a rush of warm fluid down her legs, soaking through Amy's hiking pants. Her water had broken. "No," she whimpered into the frozen earth. "Please, God, no, not here, not like this." The dogs found her an hour later. By then, she was deep in active labor, unable to run, unable to fight, unable to do anything but endure the waves of pain that threatened to tear her apart. The men stood at the cave entrance, their confidence evaporating as they took in the scene. "She's in labor," one said into his radio, his voice losing its professional calm. "Active labor. There's blood. A lot of blood." "Nathan says bring her in regardless," the radio crackled back. "Sir, she's having the baby right now. If we move her, we could kill them both." Through her pain, Madison heard one of the men, younger than the others with a southern accent, argue with the rest. "I don't care what Clark pays us. I didn't sign up to kill a baby. My wife's pregnant. This is wrong." "Orders are orders, Tommy," another man said. "Fuck orders," Tommy shot back. "Call an ambulance, now." Tommy pushed past the others, kneeling beside Madison. His face was young, maybe 25, with kind brown eyes that reminded her of her brother. "Ma'am, I'm a medic, former Army. I've delivered babies in worse places than this. Let me help." Madison had no choice but to trust him. The baby was coming, whether she wanted it or not. Tommy worked with gentle efficiency, talking her through each contraction, using his coat to create a clean surface, his medical kit more extensive than standard security would carry. "You're doing great," he said. "Baby's crowning. One more big push." Madison screamed, not caring who heard. The baby slid into Tommy's waiting hands, tiny and still and blue. "No," Madison gasped. "Please." Tommy worked frantically, clearing airways, attempting infant CPR with fingers that seemed impossibly large against the tiny chest. After an eternity that lasted maybe 2 minutes, he stopped. His shoulders sagged. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry." Madison reached for her child, a boy, perfect and still. She held him against her chest, keening into the frozen air. The other men stood silent, some looking away, uncomfortable with this raw display of grief. But something else was happening. Madison felt her belly contract again, differently this time. "There's another," she gasped. "I was carrying twins," Tommy's head snapped up. "The ambulance is 5 minutes out. Hold on." The ambulance arrived in a case of sirens and flashing lights, cutting through the forest like something from another world. The paramedic who jumped out first was a woman named Sarah, mid-40s with gentle hands and eyes that had seen too much. She took one look at Madison, covered in blood and cradling a tiny still form, while Tommy worked frantically between her legs to deliver the second baby, and made a decision that would change everything. "Everyone back up," Sarah commanded with an authority that made even the hardened security men step away. "This is a medical emergency. You're contaminating my workspace. I need a sterile field." She knelt beside Tommy, quickly assessing the situation. The second baby was coming fast, too fast. Madison was losing too much blood. The men who'd hunted her stood too close, recording everything on their phones for their employer. "You," Sarah pointed at the lead investigator, "get on your radio and tell the hospital we need a neonatal team standing by. Type and cross for 4 units. Possible DIC from placental abruption." The man hesitated. "We're supposed to document." "You document 1 more second of this woman's trauma, and I'll have you arrested for interfering with emergency medical care," Sarah said coldly. This is a crime scene now. She was chased through the woods while in labor. Every one of you is potentially liable for manslaughter. That got their attention. The phones disappeared. Sarah leaned close to Madison's ear while pretending to check her vitals. The first baby's gone, honey, I'm sorry. But the second one's coming, and these men don't need to know about it, Dad. Do you understand? When this baby comes, I need you to stay quiet. Can you do that? Madison nodded through her tears, understanding flooding through her pain. Sarah was offering her a chance, a secret, a way to protect at least one child from Nathan's reach. What followed was a performance worthy of an Oscar. Sarah delivered the second baby, a healthy girl who came out screaming, while simultaneously creating medical documentation for only one stillbirth. She wrapped the living baby in thermal blankets, tucking her inside the ambulance while appearing to process paperwork. Tommy, understanding something significant was happening, helped by creating a distraction. I need to document the scene for the police report, he announced to the other men. This could be negligent homicide. Mr. Clark ordered us to pursue a pregnant woman in medical distress. We all heard him say to bring her in regardless of her condition. The men exchanged nervous glances. Suddenly, their generous paychecks didn't seem worth potential criminal charges. Sarah emerged from the ambulance with a clipboard, her face professionally neutral. The infant was stillborn, approximately 32 weeks gestation. Cause of death, likely placental abruption brought on by extreme physical stress. She looked directly at the lead investigator. That's what killed this baby, being chased through the woods by grown men while the mother was in active labor. Tommy stepped forward. I was a medic in Afghanistan. I've seen some shit. But this, he shook his head. I'm done. I'll testify to what happened here. Every detail. Tommy, shut up, the lead investigator warned. No, Frank. We killed a baby today. For money. What's that make us? Sarah used the argument as cover to load Madison into the ambulance. I need to transport immediately. She's hemorrhaging. Once in the ambulance with the doors closed, Sarah worked with swift efficiency. The baby girl was perfect. Tiny but breathing well, good color, strong reflexes. She tucked the infant against Madison's chest under a blanket while hooking up IVs with her other hand. Listen carefully, Sarah said as she drove, siren wailing. In about 3 minutes, we're going to pass a fire station. I'm going to have a sudden emergency that requires me to pull in. There's a car around back, gray Subaru, keys in the ignition. There's a bag in the trunk with everything you need. Why, hi, Madison whispered, holding her daughter tight. Why are you helping me? Sarah's eyes met hers in the rearview mirror. Because I had a sister once. Beautiful, smart, married to a wealthy man who everyone thought was perfect. She died falling down the stairs. Officially an accident, but I knew better. She called me the night before, said she was leaving him. By morning, she was dead. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry, be smart. That baby doesn't exist officially. The paperwork says stillborn. Your husband will believe you lost the child. Use that. They pulled into the fire station. Sarah jumped out, ran inside shouting about needing assistance with the equipment. Madison had maybe 90 seconds. She wrapped the baby in the emergency blanket, grabbed the bag Sarah had indicated from under the gurney, formula, diapers, $2,000 cash, a burner phone, and slipped out the back. The Subaru was exactly where Sarah said. Madison placed the baby in a cardboard box lined with blankets, the best she could do for a car seat. She drove away as Sarah emerged from the station with 2 firefighters, gesticulating wildly about a mechanical problem with the ambulance. In the bus bay, Madison found a note. Drive north for 2 hours, then east. Avoid toll roads. There's a motel in Bransbury that takes cash. No questions. The owner owes me. Tell her Sarah sent you. Delete this after reading. Madison drove through the night with her newborn daughter. She decided to call her Hope, because that's all she had left. The baby slept peacefully, unaware that she didn't officially exist, that her twin brother was gone, that her father believed her dead. At a truck stop, Madison bought hair dye with some of Sarah's cash. In the grimy bathroom, she transformed from blonde to brunette while Hope slept in her box on the changing table. She looked at herself in the mirror, hollow eyes, dyed hair, wearing a stolen paramedic's jacket Sarah had left in the car. She didn't recognize herself. Good. The motel in Bransbury was exactly as Sarah described, a rundown place that probably rented rooms by the hour but was clean enough. The owner, a heavy-set woman with knowing eyes, took one look at Madison and the baby and handed her a key. Room 12, end of the row. Sarah called. You stay as long as you need. For 3 days, Madison recovered in that dingy motel room. She bled heavily, passing clots that frightened her, but gradually it slowed. Hope nursed well despite being premature. The television worked, and Madison watched the news obsessively, waiting for a report about a woman who died in childbirth, a baby stolen from an ambulance, anything. But there was nothing. Nathan had kept it quiet. Of course he had. Public scrutiny was the last thing he wanted. On the fourth day, she finally felt strong enough to plan her next move. She needed help, real help, someone Nathan couldn't buy or intimidate. There was only one person she could think of. Jake Morrison lived in a renovated brownstone in Boston's South End, a far cry from the cramped student apartment Madison remembered from their college days. She sat in her car for 20 minutes watching his windows, Hope sleeping in the cardboard box beside her. Was this a mistake? Jake had been her first love, the one who got away when she'd chosen Nathan's certainty over Jake's dreams of joining the FBI. Now he was Special Agent Morrison, according to the nameplate she'd seen in the lobby directory. He'd made his dreams come true while she'd been playing house with a monster. She called him from the burner phone Sarah had left, her heart hammering as it rang. Jake Morrison, his voice was deeper than she remembered, professional. Jake, it's Madison. Silence stretched like a taut wire, then, Madison, Jesus Christ, everyone's looking for you. Nathan said you kidnapped his child, that you're having a psychotic break. He's got half the police departments in New England searching. I need your help, please. I can explain everything. Maddie, her old nickname on his lips made her eyes burn with tears. Where are you? I can't say on the phone. Can we meet? This is insane. I could lose my job just talking to you. Jake, please, you know me. You know I'm not crazy. Another long pause. She could hear him breathing, probably running a hand through his hair, the way he used to when stressed. There's a diner in Springfield, he finally said. Rosie's off exit 6. I can be there in 2 hours. Come alone. I have the baby. Nathan's baby? My baby, she corrected firmly. 2 hours. Rosie's Diner was a time capsule from the 1950s, all red vinyl and chrome with a jukebox playing Patsy Cline. Jake was already there when Madison arrived, sitting in a corner booth facing the door. He looked older, distinguished in a way that made her heart ache for simpler times. His dark hair had silver at the temples, laugh lines around green eyes that widened when he saw her. My God, Maddie, you look like hell, she finished, sliding into the booth with a Hope's carrier. I was going to say different. His eyes went to the baby. She's beautiful. Her name is Hope. Jake signaled the waitress for coffee, waited until she'd poured and moved away. Start from the beginning. Everything. Madison told him everything. The affair, the documents Sophia had been photographing, the psychiatric hold, the escape, the birth. She pulled out the phone she'd managed to buy with the last of Sarah's money, showing him screenshots she'd saved to the cloud before her phone was confiscated. Nathan in bed with Sophia, Sophia photographing documents. Jake's expression grew darker with each detail. When she finished, he sat back, running both hands through his hair in that familiar gesture. Madison, this is so much worse than you know. What do you mean? Nathan's hedge fund has been under federal investigation for 2 years. We suspect he's been laundering money for the Herrera cartel, but we haven't been able to prove it. The money moves through so many shell companies, offshore accounts, it's like tracking smoke. Madison's stomach dropped. The Herrera cartel, the ones who killed those DEA agents. Among other things, they're into everything. Drugs, human trafficking, weapons. Nathan's fund cleans their money, makes it legitimate for investment in the U.S. market. Oh God, Madison held Hope tighter. And Sophia? Sophia Winters isn't a lawyer. Jake pulled out his phone, showed her a federal ID. She's DOJ undercover. She's been working Nathan for months trying to get access to his private files. The affair was her cover story. Madison laughed, bitter and short. So I was just collateral damage? My baby died because of some federal investigation? Your baby? Jake looked confused, glancing at Hope. But she's right here. Twins, Madison whispered, the words scraping her throat raw. I was carrying twins. The boy didn't make it. Jake reached across the table, taking her hand. His wedding ring caught the light. Maddie, I'm so sorry. She pulled her hand back. I need protection. Witness protection, something. Nathan can't know Hope survived. He can't get his hands on her. I can help with that. We can bring you in, make you a protected witness. Your testimony about what you saw could be crucial. Madison should have noticed the way he kept checking his phone. The slight tremor in his left hand. The way his eyes kept darting to the door. But she was exhausted, traumatized, and desperately wanted to believe someone could help her. I need to make a call, Jake said. Set things up. Order whatever you want. My treat. He stood, leaned down, and kissed her forehead. The gesture was so unexpected, so tender, that Madison froze. I'm sorry, Maddie, he whispered against her hair. He has photos from Quantico. My career, my marriage, everything I've built. I'm so fucking sorry. Before she could process his words, the diner door chimed. Nathan walked in, followed by 4 men in dark suits. Not the security team from the forest. These were professionals of a different caliber. Madison's blood turned to ice. She grabbed Hope's carrier, looking for another exit. There was none. The kitchen door was blocked by a massive man with an earpiece. Hello, darling, Nathan said smoothly, sliding into the booth across from her as if they were meeting for a casual lunch. You've led us quite a chase. Stay away from us, Madison warned, her body curling protectively around Hope's carrier. Nathan pulled out a manila folder, spreading documents across the Formica table. Custody papers. Emergency order granted yesterday. You're an unfit mother who kidnapped my child after suffering a psychotic break. It's all thoroughly documented. The psychiatric hold you fled, the stolen vehicle, the reckless endangerment of our child during your flight. Jake stood near the door, unable to meet Madison's eyes. Nathan glanced at him with contempt. Agent Morrison has been very helpful. Amazing in what people will do to protect their secrets. What secrets? Madison asked, though she was already piecing it together. Your ex-boyfriend had quite the wild period at Quantico, Nathan explained, clearly enjoying himself. Multiple affairs with married women, including a senator's wife. Photos, videos, even some rather explicit emails. Career-ending stuff. Marriage-ending too, I'd imagine. His wife seems quite conservative. Jake's face was gray. The photos have been destroyed, right? That was the deal. Nathan pulled out an envelope, tossed it to Jake. As promised, all copies deleted from all servers. You have my word. Jake caught the envelope but didn't open it. He walked past Madison without looking at her, shoulders hunched like a beaten dog. At the door, he paused. For what it's worth, he said quietly, in her position, I'd run. Now. The door chimed as he left. Madison realized with crystal clarity that she was completely alone. No one was coming to save her. No one could help her. Nathan owned everyone. Now then, Nathan said, signaling to his men, let's discuss this reasonably. Nathan's men surrounded the booth with practiced efficiency, their positioning casual to other diners, but creating an impenetrable wall. Madison clutched Hope's carrier, calculating distances to exits she couldn't possibly reach. The baby stirred, making soft noises that tore at Madison's heart. There's nothing to discuss, Madison said, surprising herself with how steady her voice sounded. You're a monster, and you're not taking my daughter. Nathan's expression darkened. Our daughter, and I'm not taking her. The court is awarding me emergency custody due to your mental instability and criminal behavior. Criminal behavior? Let's see. Nathan counted on his manicured fingers. Fleeing a psychiatric hold, that's a felony in Connecticut. Grand theft auto, that Honda from the hospital. Another one from the fire station, according to my sources. Child endangerment, obviously. Oh, and filing a false death certificate. Madison's blood froze. What? Did you really think I wouldn't investigate? The paramedic, Sarah something, filed paperwork for a stillbirth. Yet here's our daughter, very much alive. That's fraud, conspiracy, possibly kidnapping, since you have hidden her from her legal father. He knew, somehow he knew everything. Sarah tried to help me, Madison said carefully. She didn't know. Save it for the police, Nathan interrupted. Although I'm willing to be magnanimous. Sign the custody papers, come with me quietly, and I won't press charges. You'll get supervised visitation once you complete your psychiatric treatment. You mean once you have me committed permanently? Nathan shrugged. That depends entirely on how cooperative you are. Hope began crying, the sound piercing in the quiet diner. Other patrons were studiously ignoring them, but Madison saw one woman filming with her phone. Nathan noticed too. Let's continue this conversation somewhere more private, he said, standing. My car's outside. Madison had no choice. Two of Nathan's men flanked her as she carried Hope out to a black Escalade with tinted windows. The interior smelled of leather and Nathan's cologne, a scent that made her nauseous with memory. They drove for an hour, leaving Springfield behind for increasingly rural roads. Madison nursed Hope in the back seat, Nathan watching with an expression she couldn't read. She looks like you, he finally said. The nose, the chin, but she has my mother's eyes. Your mother, who you haven't spoken to in 5 years? Family is complicated. His phone buzzed. He answered, his face shifting to business mode. Yes, good. Is the medical team ready? And Dr. Morrison? Excellent. Madison's skin crawled. What medical team? You've been through trauma, Madison. You need help. I've arranged for the best psychiatric care money can buy. You're having me committed again. I'm getting you help. There's a difference. They pulled up to what looked like a luxury hotel but was actually a private medical facility, the kind where wealthy families quietly dealt with embarrassing problems. The sign read, Serenity Springs Wellness Center. A woman in a white coat met them at the entrance, her smile professionally warm, but her eyes cold. Mr. Clark, Mrs. Clark, we're ready for you. I'm not going in there, Madison said. You can walk in, Nathan said quietly, or be carried. Your choice. Either way, you're getting the help you need. Madison looked at Hope, then at the building, then at the men surrounding them. She was trapped. But as they walked through the doors, she heard something that made her blood run cold. Another baby crying somewhere in the building. What kind of facility is this? She asked the doctor. We specialize in postpartum disorders, the woman replied. Mr. Clark has been very generous in funding our research. They were led to a suite that looked more like a luxury hotel room than a hospital. But Madison noticed the windows had invisible bars, the mirrors were clearly two-way, and the bathroom had no lock. Hope will be well cared for in our nursery, the doctor said, reaching for the baby. No, Madison pulled back. She stays with me. I'm afraid that's not possible. You're here for evaluation and treatment. The baby needs proper care. Nathan took Hope from Madison's arms with surprising gentleness. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Madison lunged for her daughter, but two orderlies appeared as if from nowhere, restraining her with practiced ease. A needle slid into her arm. Just something to help you relax, the doctor said soothingly as the world began to blur. The last thing Madison saw was Nathan carrying Hope away, the baby's cries echoing down the hallway like a siren. When she woke, she was in a different room. This one was clearly medical. Hospital bed, monitoring equipment, restraints on her wrists. The doctor from earlier sat in a chair beside her. Mrs. Clark, I'm Dr. Patricia Morrison, no relation to your FBI friend. Your husband is very concerned about you. He says you've been having delusions about affairs, conspiracies, people trying to hurt you. He's lying, Madison croaked, her mouth dry as sand. He's involved with a cartel, the FBI knows. Sophia Winters is an undercover agent. Dr. Morrison made notes. These are exactly the type of paranoid delusions your husband described. Madison, you suffered a traumatic loss, your son. It's natural to create elaborate fantasies to cope with that grief. I'm not delusional. The mind can play terrible tricks when we're in pain, but we're going to help you. A new experimental treatment, very effective for severe postpartum psychosis. Where's my daughter? Being cared for. You'll see her once you're stable. Madison tested the restraints. They were soft but unbreakable. This is kidnapping, false imprisonment. This is medical treatment, court-ordered and completely legal. Dr. Morrison stood. Rest now. Tomorrow we begin your therapy. Alone in the room, Madison could hear other sounds through the walls. Women crying, pleading, sometimes screaming. This wasn't a hospital. It was a prison designed to break inconvenient wives. But Madison had survived Nathan's betrayal, fled a psychiatric ward, given birth in a cave, and lost a child. She wasn't broken yet. She studied the room methodically. The restraints were connected to an alarm system. Any tampering would alert staff. The window was reinforced glass. The door required a key card. But the ceiling tiles were standard acoustic panels, the kind used in office buildings. During her next therapy session, which consisted mainly of Dr. Morrison trying to convince her that her memories were false, Madison played along. "Maybe you're right," she said slowly. "Maybe I imagined some of it. The stress, losing the baby. It's all so confused." Dr. Morrison smiled. "That's excellent progress, Madison. Acknowledging the confusion is the first step." Over the next 3 days, Madison became a model patient. She took her medications, palming them when possible, participated in group therapy with other women who'd been similarly inconvenienced, and stopped mentioning Nathan's crimes. On the fourth night, she made her move. The night nurse, a kind woman named Teresa, always did rounds at exactly 2-hour intervals. Madison had loosened one ceiling tile during rest periods, standing on her bed and working at it with a plastic spoon from meals. At 2:15 a.m., she pushed the tile aside and pulled herself up. The crawl space was narrow, dusty, filled with wiring and insulation. Madison moved carefully, following the sound of Hope's cries she'd memorized from down the hall. The nursery was 3 rooms over. She dropped down through another tile, landing silently on thick carpet. 4 babies lay in hospital bassinets. Hope was in the second one, awake and fussing. Madison picked her up, breathing in her sweet baby scent. "Shh, my love. Mommy's here." She found a diaper bag in the closet, already packed with supplies. On impulse, she checked the other babies' charts. All were children of women in the facility, and all had fathers who'd paid for their wives' treatment. She wanted to take them all, but knew she could only save her own. The window in the nursery wasn't reinforced. Madison wrapped Hope in blankets, put her in the diaper bag with her head carefully positioned near the zipper opening for air, then used a chair to break the glass. Alarm shrieked. Madison climbed through, dropping 8 feet to landscape bushes below. Her ankle twisted on landing, sending fire up her leg, but she ran anyway, limping through manicured grounds toward the road. Behind her, lights blazed on. Voices shouted, but Madison had a head start, and desperation made her fast. She reached the road just as headlights appeared. Madison stepped into the path, waving frantically. The car screeched to a stop. The window rolled down, revealing a familiar face. Tommy, the young security man who'd helped deliver Hope. "Mrs. Clark?" "Please," Madison gasped, "please help us." Tommy looked back at the facility, then at Madison, holding the diaper bag with Hope inside. "Get in." As they drove away, Madison asked, "Why? Why help me?" "Because what we did was wrong. Because I couldn't sleep knowing we caused a baby's death. And because someone needs to stop Nathan Clark." He handed her a phone. "I said, call whoever you trust. It's time to end this." Madison looked at the phone, then at Hope, then at the facility disappearing behind them. She knew exactly who to call. Not Jake, who'd betrayed her. Not the FBI, who couldn't be trusted. She called Sophia Winters. The phone rang 3 times before a cautious voice answered. "Who is this?" "Sophia, it's Madison Clark. Don't hang up." Silence was then, "Madison, how did you get this number?" "Your card was in Nathan's office. Your real card from the DOJ hidden behind the fake business cards. I memorized it months ago when I was looking for evidence of his affair." "Jesus, where are you? Everyone's looking for you." "Nathan says you're having a psychotic break." "I just escaped from a facility where he had me committed. I have my daughter, the one he thinks died. I need your help." "Hold on." Madison heard muffled conversation, then Sophia came back. "Where are you exactly?" Madison looked at Tommy, who was driving with grim determination. "Where are we?" "Route 9, heading east, about 20 miles from Worcester." Madison relayed the information. Sophia's response was immediate. "There's a rest stop 10 miles ahead. Pull in, park near the truck section. I'll be there in 30 minutes. Can I trust you?" Madison, I've been undercover for 18 months trying to nail your husband. You're the break I've been waiting for. Yes, you can trust me. Tommy pulled into the rest stop 20 minutes later. It was 3:47 a.m., the parking lot mostly empty except for sleeping truckers. Madison fed Hope in the back seat while Tommy stood guard outside, scanning for threats. "Why did you come back?" Madison asked him, "after what happened in the woods." Tommy lit a cigarette, his hand shaking slightly. "I didn't. I never left. I've been watching Nathan, following his moves. I knew he'd find you eventually." He paused. "My sister was murdered by her husband 5 years ago. Rich guy, connected. He got 18 months for involuntary manslaughter. I became a security contractor to get close to guys like him, but I could never do anything about it. Until now." A black sedan pulled up beside them. Sophia stepped out, but she wasn't alone. A man in his 50s, gray-haired and serious, emerged from the passenger side. "Madison, this is Deputy Director Harrison," Sophia said. "He's been running the Clark investigation." Madison held Hope tighter. "How do I know you're not with Nathan?" Harrison pulled out his credentials, then his phone, showing her a video. It was Nathan, recorded without his knowledge, talking to someone off camera. "The 50 million transfers tomorrow. After that, eliminate Madison. Make it look like suicide, postpartum depression. Tragic but believable." Madison's legs nearly gave out. Tommy steadied her. "That was recorded yesterday," Sophia explained. "Nathan doesn't know I'm federal. He still thinks I'm his mistress who's helping him cover his tracks. The affair was never real, Madison. It was my cover to access his files." "So my husband destroyed our marriage for nothing?" "Your husband destroyed your marriage because he's a narcissistic sociopath who's been laundering money for murderers," Harrison said bluntly. "But now we can stop him, with your help." They moved to Sophia's car for privacy. Harrison laid out the situation with clinical precision. Nathan's fund was expecting a final $50 million transfer from the cartel tomorrow. Actually today, Madison realized, checking the time. Once that transfer was complete, Nathan would have enough evidence destroyed to avoid prosecution. "But if we can get him on tape discussing the murder plot against you, combined with the financial crimes, he's looking at life in prison," Harrison explained. "You want me as bait," Madison said flatly. "We want you as a witness, but yes, you'd need to get close enough for us to record him." Madison looked at Hope sleeping peacefully. "He tried to have me killed. He had me committed. He took my child. And you want me to walk back into his reach?" "With full FBI protection," Sophia assured her phone. "We'll be listening every second. The moment we have what we need, we extract you." "Like you protected me before? Where were you when I was giving birth in a cave? When he had me drugged in that facility?" Sophia's face darkened. "I didn't know. Nathan compartmentalizes everything. I only found out about the facility tonight when you called." Tommy spoke up. "I'll go with her, as her security. Nathan knows I defected, but he also knows I'm the best. He'll believe I came back for the right price." Madison made her decision. "What do I need to do?" The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Madison would return to Nathan voluntarily, claiming she'd escaped the facility because she wanted to reconcile, to be a family. She'd wear a wire. When Nathan inevitably revealed his plans because his ego wouldn't let him resist gloating, they'd have him. "The transfer happens at 2 p.m., Sophia explained. "Nathan will be at his home office. That's where you'll go." "What about Hope?" "She stays with us. Safe." Leaving Hope with Harrington's team was the hardest thing Madison had ever done. Harder than fleeing Nathan, harder than giving birth alone. But she knew it was the only way to ensure her daughter's safety. Tommy drove her to Greenwich in a rental car as dawn broke. Madison wore a wire so thin it was nearly invisible, woven into her bra. She'd showered at the rest stop, fixed her hair, put on clothes Sophia had brought, the kind of expensive, casual wear Nathan expected. The house looked exactly the same, as if the last months hadn't happened. The security system recognized her face, the door opening with its familiar chime. Madison walked through her former life like a ghost returning to haunt. Nathan was in his office, 3 monitors displaying financial data. He looked up when she entered, his expression cycling through surprise, suspicion, and calculation before settling on cautious pleasure. "Madison, I wasn't expecting you." "I escaped." she said simply. That place was horrible. I just want to come home. Nathan stood slowly, studying her. How did you get here? I hired a car. Used the emergency credit card you don't know I know about. A small truth to sell the larger lie. He moved closer, circling her like a predator. And you came back after everything? Where else would I go? You're my husband, the father of my child. She let tears fall, not difficult given the circumstances. I know I've been unwell. Losing the baby, the stress. I said things, did things. But I want to get better. I want us to be a family. Nathan's hand touched her cheek, gentle but possessive. You put me through hell, Madison. I know, I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix what you've done. The embarrassment, the complications you've created. I know that too. He walked to his desk, poured himself a scotch despite the early hour. Do you know what today is? No. The culmination of 3 years of work, $50 million transferring through 17 accounts in 9 countries, finally landing clean and untraceable and legitimate investments. My masterpiece. Madison's wire was recording every word. That sounds impressive, Nathan laughed. Impressive, it's brilliant. The Herreras think they're buying into American real estate. The FBI thinks they're tracing cartel money. But they're all chasing shadows while the real money disappears into the ether. What about Sophia? His expression hardened. What about her? Is she still here? Sophia was a mistake. A useful one, but still a mistake. She's being dealt with today, actually. Tragic car accident on her way to work. He said it so casually, as if ordering coffee. Madison's blood went cold, but she kept her expression neutral. And me? Nathan set down his glass, moved toward her with predatory grace. That depends entirely on you. Can you be the wife I need? Silent, supportive, asking no questions? Yes. Can you forget what you think you saw? What you think you know? Yes. He was close now, his cologne overwhelming, because the alternative is unfortunate. Postpartum psychosis leading to suicide. It happens more often than people think. You'd be surprised how easy it is to stage. There it was, the confession they needed. But Nathan wasn't done. Do you know what your biggest mistake was? Thinking you mattered. You were an accessory, Madison, a beautiful, useful accessory. But accessories can be replaced. The front door burst open. FBI agents flooded in, weapons drawn. Nathan's face went white, then red with rage as he realized what had happened. You fucking bitch, he snarled, lunging for Madison. Tommy appeared from nowhere, tackling Nathan to the ground. The satisfaction of watching Nathan being handcuffed was worth every moment of pain. But as they led him away, Nathan turned back with a smile that chilled Madison's blood. You think you've won? You don't even know what you've lost. What does that mean? Madison demanded. Nathan laughed. Ask about the other baby, the one that lived. Madison's world tilted. My son died. I held him. Did you? Or did you hold what Tommy wanted you to see? He's quite resourceful, our Tommy, especially when someone's paying him. Madison turned to Tommy, who'd gone very still. What is he talking about? But before Tommy could answer, one of the FBI agents shouted, Gun! Nathan had somehow gotten free, grabbed an agent's weapon. He pointed it not at Madison, but at Tommy. You were supposed to deliver both babies, Nathan said, but you kept one for yourself, didn't you? Sold him to the highest bidder. The gunshot was deafening, but it wasn't Nathan who fired. Sophia stood in the doorway, smoking pistol trained on Nathan, who was collapsing, blood spreading across his white shirt. No, Madison screamed. We need him alive. Where's my son? Nathan smiled even as his life drained away. Gone, he whispered, like everything else you loved. He died looking satisfied, taking his secrets with him. The aftermath was chaos. Nathan's death triggered a cascade of revelations. His computers, unlocked by his biometric scan moments before he died, revealed everything: the money laundering, the murders, including his first wife, Rebecca, and most shocking of all, a separate set of books for black market adoption rings. Tommy, under interrogation, broke within hours. Nathan hadn't been lying, but he hadn't been entirely truthful either. The first baby, the boy, had been stillborn. But Tommy had taken money from Nathan to convince Madison both babies had died, allowing Nathan to claim the surviving twin for himself. When Madison escaped with Hope, Tommy's guilt had driven him to help her. But there's more, Harrison told Madison in a federal building conference room. Nathan's records show transactions with an adoption broker in Maine. Not for your child, but for another baby. 3 years ago. Madison's mind reeled. Rebecca's baby? Rebecca was pregnant when she died. The baby survived the accident, was delivered by emergency C-section. Nathan sold the child days later. Madison felt sick. He'd done it before. The broker kept records. We've tracked the child, a girl adopted by a family in Bar Harbor. 6 months later, after testifying in dozens of trials that brought down the entire Herrera cartel operation, Madison was given a new identity and witness protection. She chose the name Sarah Mitchell and moved to a small coastal town in Maine, Bar Harbor specifically. The bakery she opened was modest but successful. Hope, now a toddler, played in the small apartment above the shop. Madison had legally adopted her under her new identity, all traces of Nathan Clark erased from their lives. It was a Tuesday morning when fate intervened. The bell above the door chimed, and a well-dressed woman entered with a young girl, maybe 5 years old. The child had auburn hair and green eyes that made Madison's breath catch. "Mommy, look," the girl said, pointing at a butterfly cake in the display. "It matches my birthmark." Madison's hands froze. The girl had a small, butterfly-shaped birthmark on her neck. Rebecca had the same mark. She'd shown Madison once, laughing about how it looked like a monarch butterfly. "We just moved here from Boston," the woman explained. "I'm Jennifer Harrison. This is Lily." "Pretty name," Madison managed. "It was suggested by the adoption agency. They said her birth mother had requested it before she died." Rebecca had loved lilies. She told Madison once she'd name a daughter Lily. Over the following weeks, Jennifer became a regular. She was a pediatric surgeon, single, devoted to Lily. As they grew closer, Jennifer confided she'd been trying to find information about Lily's birth family. "The adoption was complicated," Jennifer admitted one day. "The agency was shut down for fraud. All I know is her mother died in a car accident." Madison made a decision. "I might be able to help. I have some connections from my past life." It took months of careful investigation, but Madison confirmed what she'd suspected. Lily was Rebecca's daughter. When she finally told Jennifer the truth, the woman sat in stunned silence. "So Lily's father is dead?" "Yes." "And he was a monster?" "Yes." "But she has a sister? Hope?" Madison nodded. "Half-sister, same father." Jennifer watched the two girls playing together in the corner of the bakery, already inseparable. They found each other anyway. Children have a way of knowing what we adults complicate. 5 years passed. The bakery thrived. The girls grew up as sisters in everything but name. Jennifer and Madison became family by choice, bound by their daughters and their shared determination to give them better lives than their biological parents could have. On Hope's 10th birthday, Madison told her everything. About her father, her twin, the courage it took to run. "You saved me," welcome Hope said, wise beyond her years. "We saved each other." At 18, both girls went to law school. In her valedictorian speech, Hope said, "My mother taught me that family isn't about blood, it's about choice. That starting over isn't failure, it's courage. And that sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all, but living well despite those who tried to break you." Madison died at 78, surrounded by grandchildren who knew her only as the grandmother who made the best chocolate croissants in Maine. Her obituary mentioned nothing of Madison Clark or Nathan or the FBI. It simply read, "Sarah Mitchell, beloved mother and grandmother. She taught us that every ending is a beginning in disguise." The bakery still stands, run by Hope and Lily. Above the door hangs a sign, "Second Chances Bakery, everyone deserves one." They never turn anyone away who needs help disappearing for a while. After all, they know better than most that sometimes vanishing is the first step to being found.